Laminitis is one of the most painful and potentially devastating conditions a horse can have, with a prevalence of around 34% and the cause of around 7% of all horse deaths within the UK population. But most horse owners don't actually know what's happening within the hoof when this condition develops, or how early signs can develop. I'm Mark, an equine veterinarian, and today we're going to break down laminitis from the inside out. We'll look at the clinical signs, the physiology behind the disease, diagnosis, and treatment options which give horses the best chance of recovery. My goal is to make this clear, practical, and evidence-based, whether you're a vet student or horse owner, or a professional looking for a concise refresher. Let's get to it. When thinking of physiology, we first need to look at the laminar interface. Inside the hoof, the coffin bone is suspended by millions of tiny interlocking structures called laminae. Think of them like Velcro, primary and secondary laminae, which bind the hoof tightly to the coffin bone within the hoof capsule. We can now look at inflammation and vascular dysfunction. A major driver for laminar failure is inflammation. As the hoof capsule is rigid, there's no room for swelling within the foot. When inflammation increases vascular permeability, fluid starts to build up within the laminae. The cells which are responsible for maintaining this attachment then start to break down. Blood flow then becomes irregular. Some areas get too much whilst others get too little. This imbalance contributes to heat, pain, and the bounding digital pulses which we often feel. For most horses today, laminitis is actually an endocrine disease. Conditions like equine metabolic syndrome and PPID or Cushing's disease cause insulin dysregulation. High insulin levels overstimulate the laminar epithelial cells, causing them to stretch and lose their natural architecture. And this is why horses can develop laminitis without ever having a systemic illness. It's a metabolic problem affecting the hoof at a cellular level. Another major pathway is sepsis-related laminitis, which occurs in horses with severe systemic illness. This can be things like colitis, retained membranes, or even a grain overload. In these cases, the problem starts far away from the hoof. Bacterial toxins and inflammatory mediators then travel through the bloodstream, causing a body-wide response. When that inflammation reaches the laminae, it causes vascular dysregulation, increased permeability, leading to that fluid retention we spoke about earlier, activation of inflammatory enzymes, and a loss of blood perfusion. Because the hoof capsule can't expand, even small amounts of fluid can cause damage in pressure. This form of laminitis can progress rapidly, which is why cryotherapy can be quite important in these high-risk cases. The final cause we're going to look at is mechanical overload. We also see laminitis developing if we have an incredibly lame horse which can't weight bear through one leg. As a result, they then weight bear through the opposing limb, decreasing blood flow, causing ischemia within those tissues. This in turn leads to laminar weakening. This is what we call supporting limb laminitis, and is one of those reasons why aggressive pain management is absolutely necessary in these horses which are non-weight bearing lame. So then how does this cause a cascade to a structural failure? All of these pathways lead to the same endpoint, which is laminar failure. As the laminae start to stretch and tear, that's when we begin to see things like the coffin bone rotation, the coffin bone sinking, widening of that white line, dropping of the sole. Understanding this cascade helps explain why early detection is key. Owners, you may wish to skip this bit, but for students, we're about to take a deeper dive. At the cellular level, enzymes like matrix metalloproteinases, or MMPs, contribute to laminar degradation. Oxidative stress and inflammatory mediators also play a key role. These details aren't essential for owners, but it helps explain that rapid progression which we often see. Next, let's talk about diagnosis. The first thing I'm going to look at is the horse's stance. Does he have that classic rock back stance where he's trying to weight bear through his heels and take any weight from the front of the foot where it's most tender? Not all horses will show this, but especially in moderate and more severe cases, definitely will. Your milder cases may just show a very mild lameness. They may have that what we call a pottery gait. If they're walking along concrete, they might just be a bit tentative with their foot placement and take those short, choppy strides. If they're turned tightly on a bend, the inside foot may hobble slightly because we know that they weight bear more on that inside foot when we do turn them tightly. They're in your milder cases. In your more extreme cases, your horse may be stood still, but he may be weight shifting between feet. He's not comfortable with either foot on the ground, so he's constantly trying to take weight away from that foot and place it through his other feet. As part of my clinical examination, I'm going to be having a good look at those feet. Is there any heat coming through the hoof wall? You can normally feel like just by placing a hand on the dorsal aspect. If it's warm, we know that there's increased blood flow to the area. What will also come hand in hand with this is a bounding digital pulse, so have a good feel for those as well. If it's bounding, we know that there's inflammation distal to where we're feeling and an increased blood flow. If I'm able to pick the front feet up freely, I might have a go with hoof testers. If there's any pedal rotation, we know that the hoof testers are going to elicit a response when we squeeze above where the tip of the pedal bone is going to be. Equally, if we percuss gently around that hoof wall using the hoof testers, if the horse starts wincing, we know that they're uncomfortable, likely due to that inflammation within the lamina. Radiographs are essential in laminitic cases. They're going to tell us if there's any rotation in the pedal bone, if there's any founder where the pedal bone has sunk towards the sole of the hoof. We can have a look at sole thickness beneath that pedal bone as well, and it's just going to guide us on prognosis and any treatment options that we may have. As we said earlier, a lot of laminitis is caused by an underlying endocrine cause, such as your EMS or your PPID. We can test for all these. I'm going to look for insulin dysregulation. I'm going to carry out EMS bloods. I'm also going to carry out ACTH bloods so that I can test for the PPID and monitor what changes again that we need. Finally, let's have a look at treatment. As a first aid measure, the first thing that we need to do is to try and stabilise that foot. We know that the underside of the foot, the horse's sole, is slightly concave. What that means is that your horse is weight bearing through the centre of this foot. If we have any laminar damage around the outside of the hoof, we're putting excess pressure on that as we do so. So we need to try and counteract that weight going through the centre. We do that by packing the underside of the sole. The first thing I'm going to do is put this horse on box rest for a minimum of 3 weeks. This will give the inflammation chance to subside and also allow that lamina to start repairing itself as well. Whilst on box rest, I'm going to recommend a minimum of 6 inches deep bedding, preferably shavings. What that's going to do is to really impact underneath that foot. Similarly, you may wish to use foam pads, lily pads. All of these products are designed to do the same thing, and that's to stabilise the underside of the foot and to maintain that lamina where we can. The goal of all of these products is to try and stabilise the foot and to prevent any further damage occurring to that damaged laminae. Again, anti-inflammatory therapy. We need to break that inflammation cycle, and we need to make those horses as comfortable as we can for as long as we can. Cryotherapy may be a therapy choice as well. Really useful in those very early stages when the inflammation is first kicking off. What that's going to do is again to break that inflammation cycle, and it's also really good for those sepsis related cases as well. Once the horse is stable enough, we need to get the farriers involved. Using those radiographs that we took earlier, we can see if we're able to take the toe back and reduce that heel, and just trying to restructure that coffin bone as it should naturally be positioned, not in that rotated form. We need to alter the biomechanics of the foot by pushing that breakover point further back over. Your farriers may also suggest using things like heart bar shoes as well, which again are going to support the underside of that foot. The goal of working with the farrier is to restore a more normal orientation of the coffin bone and to reduce any kind of mechanical stress which is going on within the foot as well. And finally, we're going to treat that underlying cause, whether it's an endocrine cause which would require weight loss, would require certain medications. If it's supporting limb laminitis, we need to really be aggressive with that pain relief to ensure that we're not weight bearing excessively through the remaining limb. If it's sepsis related, obviously we need to get on top of that infection whilst we're managing this laminitic episode. Laminitis is a condition that we need to monitor closely. Repeat radiographs quite often come into play. This costs your owner a lot more money, but we really need to ensure that there's no further changes happening within that foot. Some horses are likely to recover quickly from laminitis, others, those with those chronic changes, it's going to take a lot longer to get them back on side. Laminitis is complex, but by understanding what's happening within the foot, it helps describe those clinical signs, treatment options, and diagnosis as well. Everything becomes much clearer. If you found this useful, please consider subscribing to more evidence-based equine veterinary content. I'm Mark, Thefreshvet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.